I pushed open the apartment door with a smile on my face. Sophia, you're not going to believe it. I took off my coat and stepped inside. We finally got it. The biggest deal our company has ever seen. I expected to hear my wife laugh. I expected her to run toward me. I expected her to wrap her arms around me and say, I knew you could do it. Instead, the apartment was silent. I slowly looked toward the dining room. Sophia was sitting at the table, but she wasn't alone. A man in an expensive black suit sat across from her. His silver watch caught the light from the chandelier. A black leather briefcase rested beside his chair. I stopped walking. My smile disappeared. Who is he? Sophia looked at me. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then a man stood. Ethan Carter. His voice was calm. Too calm. I looked at him carefully. I know you. He smiled. Victor Langston. My chest tightened. Victor Langston. I had heard that name many times during the past year. He was one of the richest investors in the city. He owned several technology companies, investment firms, and private financial groups. 6 months earlier, he had tried to buy my company. I had refused him. I looked at Sophia. What is Victor doing here? Sophia lowered her eyes. I was going to tell you. My heart began beating faster. Tell me what? Victor calmly returned to his chair. I think you should sit down. I didn't ask you. I kept my eyes on Sophia. Sophia, what is going on? She took a slow breath. Ethan, what? I made a decision. What decision? She looked at the documents on the table. My eyes followed hers. I stepped closer. Then I saw the company name printed across the first page. My company. The company I had built from nothing. The company I had spent 7 years of my life creating. My hands suddenly became cold. What is this? Sophia didn't answer. I picked up the first page. My eyes moved across the words. Transf. I stood there staring at Sophia. I wanted to believe I had misunderstood her. I wanted her to laugh and tell me this was some terrible joke. But she didn't. She simply sat there, staring at the table. I pointed at the papers. Tell me you haven't signed them. Sophia's lips moved, but no words came out. I stepped closer. Sophia, look at me. She slowly raised her eyes. Have you signed those documents? Yes. The word was barely a whisper, but I heard it. I heard it clearly. My heart sank. When? This afternoon. I shook my head. This afternoon? Yes. While I was at the office. She nodded. So while I was working to close the biggest deal of our lives, you were selling the company behind my back. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I was making a decision. You didn't have a right. I was your wife. That doesn't give you the right to sell my life's work. Our marriage gave me a right to protect myself. Protect yourself from me? From poverty. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We were never poor. You think that because you love the struggle. What does that mean? It means you're comfortable living with less. I looked at her in silence. She continued. I've spent years pretending that waiting was romantic. Pretending. Yes. I felt my jaw tighten. You remember when we got married? Of course. I had $20 in my account. You had 23. Despite everything, I almost smiled. You remember? I remember everything. Then how can you say I didn't give you anything? You gave me love. And I wanted more. Her answer was simple. Cold. Painful. I turned away for a moment. I needed to breathe. I'd spent 7 years thinking love was enough. Maybe I had been foolish. Victor cleared his throat. Ethan, emotional arguments won't change the contract. I turned toward him. Stay out of my marriage. I would if you're Mari. I looked from Victor to Sophia. What does that mean? Neither of them answered. I felt my heartbeat getting louder. Sophia, what did he promise you? She looked away. I stepped closer. Tell me. It doesn't matter anymore. It matters to me. You don't understand? Then make me understand. Victor calmly adjusted his jacket. I think this conversation should end. I turned toward him. No. My voice surprised even me. You've taken my company. You've walked into my home. You've sat across from my wife and watched her destroy everything we built. I pointed toward the door. But you don't get to decide when this conversation ends. Victor stared at me. For the first time, his smile disappeared. Sophia stood. Ethan, please. Please what? Don't make this worse. I laughed bitterly. Worse? I looked around the room. What exactly could be worse? You could lose everything. I already did. She looked down. No. What do you mean? You don't know everything yet. My stomach tightened. What haven't you told me? Sophia wiped her eyes. Victor promised to marry me. The room became completely silent. I heard the clock on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. I looked at her. You're lying. I wish I were. I slowly shook my head. No. He promised me a new life. You were going to marry him? Yes. When? She didn't answer. I looked at Victor. When? Victor gave a small smile. After the transaction settled. I laughed again. I couldn't stop. You planned a wedding while I was building your new company? Sophia whispered. I didn't plan it like that. Or did you plan it? I thought you would understand. Understand what? That we had grown apart. I looked at her. Did we grow apart? Yes. Or did you leave me before I even knew you were gone? She started crying. I didn't want to hurt you. You sold everything behind my back. I was afraid. Of what? Of B. I stared at Sophia. The last patent. She nodded. Yes. Why didn't you sell it? Because Victor didn't know about it. I stepped away from the door. Are you sure? Yes. How? Because you never told me the final details. I almost laughed. Then how did you know about it? You mentioned it once. When? Last winter. I searched my memory. I remember that night. I had been sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by research papers. Sophia had brought me coffee. I had been excited. I had told her that I was close to creating something that could change the energy industry. At the time, she had smiled. I thought she was proud of me. Now I wondered if she had only been listening because she wanted to understand what I owned. I looked at her. Did you keep it secret from Victor? Yes. Why? She looked down. Because I didn't know whether I was doing the right thing. You knew enough to hide it. I was confused. You weren't confused when you signed everything else. She flinched. I regretted the words, but I couldn't take them back. She whispered, You're right. I walked toward the table. Show me. What? The patent documents. I don't have them. Where are they? She hesitated. I gave them to you. I frowned. When? 3 years ago. I searched my memory again. Then I remembered. A small envelope. My original research notes. I had stored them in a safe deposit box because I didn't want anyone inside the company to find them. I looked at Sophia. You knew where I kept them? Yes. Does Victor know? No. Are you sure? Yes. I took a deep breath. For the first time that night, my mind started working again. How much does Victor know about the technology? Only what was included in the company records. And the final version? He doesn't have it. I nodded slowly. That changed everything. Sophia watched me. You're thinking about rebuilding. Yes. With what money? The door opened slowly. I held my breath. Sophia gripped my arm. Ethan, who is that? I don't know. The door moved another inch. Then a man stepped inside. He was wearing a dark coat and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. I immediately moved in front of Sophia. Who are you? He stopped. I came to warn you. About what? Victor. My eyes narrowed. How do you know Victor? I used to work for him. Sophia stepped closer. What's your name? Thomas. I studied his face. Thomas what? Thomas Gray. Sophia suddenly gasped. I looked at her. You know him? No. Her reaction told me otherwise. Thomas looked at her. She knows exactly who I am. I turned towards Sophia. What is he talking about? She shook her head. I don't know. Thomas laughed quietly. Still lying? I stepped toward him. Start talking. Thomas reached into his coat. I immediately tensed. Slowly, he pulled out a small envelope. I don't want trouble. Then why are you here? Because I made a mistake. What mistake? I helped Victor. My stomach tightened. With what? The company. I looked at Sophia, then at Thomas. Explain. Thomas placed the envelope on the table. Victor didn't just want your company. I know. No. His eyes hardened. You don't know how far he planned to go. I opened the envelope. Inside were copies of financial records, bank transfers, private emails, meeting notes. My hands began shaking. Where did you get these? I copied them before I left. Why did you leave? Because I realized what Victor was planning. What? Thomas looked directly at me. He wanted the patent. I felt a cold wave move through me. How does he know? He knew about it before tonight. I turned towards Sophia. She looked terrified. I asked Thomas who told him. He shook his head. He found references in your old research files. But those files were private. Not all of them. I looked at TH. Spent 3 days sleeping badly and pretending I was fine. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Sophia saying, I sold the future I wanted. On the 4th morning, I called her. Come to the apartment. I don't think that's a good idea. I need answers. You already know what happened. No, I know what you did. I don't know why. There was silence. Then she said, I'll come. When Sophia arrived, I was sitting at the kitchen table. She sat anyway. You look tired, she said. I haven't slept. I'm sorry. Don't say that unless you mean it. I do mean it. Then tell me the truth. What truth? Everything. She took a slow breath. I was unhappy. For how long? Years. Why didn't you tell me? I did. No. You complained about money. You complained about the apartment. You complained about my hours. You never said you wanted to destroy our marriage. I never wanted to destroy it. You sold my company. Our company. Stop calling it that. She flinched. What did Victor offer you? Money. How much? 80 million. And besides money, a penthouse apartment. Anything else? A position. With his company? Yes. So you traded 7 years of marriage for money, a penthouse, and a job. I didn't see it that way. How did you see it? As a chance to finally live. I laughed. We were living. You were surviving. We were building. You kept saying that. Because it was true. Maybe for you. I looked at my wedding ring. Did you ever believe in me? Yes. When we first met. And then, I watched you fail. Your first 2 businesses failed. I rebuilt. You missed our anniversary because of work. I apologized. You always apologized. And you always stayed. Because I loved you. Past tense. She didn't answer. Do you love Victor? No. Then why him? Because he can give me the life you couldn't. You are. Looked at Daniel. You said Victor planned everything before Sophia signed. Yes. How far back? Almost 5 months. I stared at the documents again. 5 months. Daniel nodded. He had lawyers preparing claims against you before the sale was completed. Sophia whispered, I didn't know. I turned toward her. You didn't ask? I trusted him. That word means nothing to me anymore. She lowered her eyes. Daniel pulled another document from the folder. There is more. What? This company belongs to one of Victor's holding groups. I read the name. Why does that matter? Because this company was created 2 weeks before Victor approached Sophia. My stomach tightened. So he created a company specifically for this deal? Looks like it. Sophia stared at the document. Why would he do that? Daniel answered immediately. To separate himself from the transaction. I looked at him. Explain. If something went wrong, Victor could claim he wasn't directly involved. I slowly nodded. So he expected trouble. Exactly. Sophia stood. I need to talk to him. I looked at her. No, I need answers. You've had enough answers. I need to know why he lied. Daniel shook his head. He won't tell you. Sophia looked at him. How do you know? Because I found something else. He pulled out his phone. There's a recording. My eyes widened. A recording of what? Victor speaking to one of his lawyers. Where did you get it? I can't tell you. Daniel, trust me. I almost laughed at the irony. Trust. Daniel looked at me. I know. He played the recording. Victor's voice filled the room. Once the transfer is complete, freeze his accounts. A second voice answered. And the personal assets? Everything possible. My hands tightened. Then Victor spoke again. He won't have the money to fight us. The recording stopped. Nobody moved. Sophia looked like she had been punched. He lied too. Arrived at Grace Bennett's office with Daniel beside me. I expected a young lawyer with a serious face. Instead, Grace looked directly at me and said, You have about 48 hours before Victor's lawyers make their first move. I stopped. How do you know? She pointed at the folder in my hand. Because I know who Victor Langston is. Daniel pulled out a chair. Then tell him what he's facing. I sat down. Grace opened the folder. Victor isn't interested in your old company anymore. I frowned. He just bought it. No. She looked at me. He bought the shell. What does that mean? It means he believes the real value is somewhere else. I immediately thought about my final patent. The technology. Grace nodded. Exactly. Daniel leaned forward. So what happens if Victor gets it? He controls the most valuable part of your business. I asked, can he legally take it? Not if you own the patent independently. I felt some relief. But Grace continued, we need to verify your ownership immediately. What do you need? Every document you have. I have the originals. Good. She looked at Daniel. Can you bring them? Yes. Grace turned back to me. And I need every conversation you had with Victor. I have some messages. Bring those too. I nodded. Then Grace asked, where is Sophia? At home. Does she know we're here? Yes. Can she be trusted? The question hurt. I don't know. Grace didn't react. That answer is enough. I looked at her. You think she betrayed me again? I think people under pressure make strange choices. She already sold my company. And now she may be Victor's weakest point. Daniel nodded. That makes sense. I looked between them. Ow! Grace closed the folder. Victor needed Sophia to make the transaction look voluntary. So if she admits he manipulated her, his entire strategy becomes harder to defend. I slowly understood. You want her tea? I returned to the apartment with Daniel beside me. Sophia was standing near the window when I walked in. She looked frightened. What did you find? She turned toward me. Victor's files. Where did you get them? I took photographs before I left his office. Daniel immediately asked, why were you in his office? Sophia looked at me. He called me there. When? Yesterday. I frowned. After everything happened? Yes. What did he want? He wanted me to sign another document. My stomach tightened. Another document? She nodded. He said it was necessary to protect my $80 million. Daniel stepped closer. Did you sign it? No. Why? Because I saw Ethan's name. I looked at her. What did it say? She handed me her phone. I opened the photographs. My eyes moved across the first page. Then I stopped. This says my personal accounts will be frozen. Sophia nodded. There was more. I opened the next photograph. My apartment. My car. My savings. Even my personal investments. Everything was listed. I looked at Daniel. He wanted all of it. Daniel nodded. I told you. I looked back at Sophia. You knew about this yesterday? Yes. Why didn't you tell me immediately? I was scared. Of Victor? Yes. I lowered the phone. What happened after you refused to sign? He became angry. What did he say? He told me I had already betrayed you once. And he said if I tried to help you, he would make sure I lost everything too. Daniel asked, did he threaten you directly? Yes. Do you have proof? Sophia nodded. I recorded the conversation. I looked at her. You recorded him? Yes. Play it. She hesitated. Then she pressed the screen. Victor's voice filled the room. You should understand something, Sophia. You belong to the agreement now. Sophia's recorded voice answered. I never agreed to this. You agreed when you signed. I signed because. Walked beside Daniel toward his car. For the first time in days, I felt like I had a direction. I still had almost no money. I had lost my company. My marriage was broken. Victor was coming after everything I had left. But I had something he couldn't control. My knowledge. My patent. And now, evidence. Daniel unlocked the car. Get in. I opened the passenger door. Before I sat down, I looked across the street. A black car was parked near the corner. The windows were dark. Daniel. What? Do you see that car? He looked. Yes. It was there when we left. He frowned. Maybe someone lives nearby. Maybe. I got inside, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us. Daniel started the engine. What are you thinking? That Victor knows. Knows what? That we're fighting back. Daniel nodded. Then we moved faster. I looked at him. Ow! First, we secure the patent. Grace is handling that. Second, we find out who inside your company helped Victor. And third, Daniel smiled. We build something new. I stared at him. With what money? We'll figure it out. I laughed quietly. You sound like me. You taught me. I looked out the window. Maybe that was the first thing I needed to remember. I had built something once. I could build again. My phone rang. Grace. I answered. Hello. Ethan, don't go home. Why? Victor's lawyers filed an emergency motion. My stomach tightened. For what? To freeze your remaining assets. How fast? They want a hearing tomorrow morning. I looked at Daniel. What happens if they win? You could lose access to almost everything. How much do I have left? Enough to survive. That isn't an answer. Grace paused. About $40,000. I closed my eyes. 40,000. 7 years of work had been reduced to $40,000. Okay. Ethan, I'll be there tomorrow. Bring every document. I will. He stood outside my apartment with one suitcase in my hand. The door was locked. My key no longer worked. I tried it again. Nothing. I looked at Daniel. They changed the locks. He nodded. I thought they might. I stared at the door. That was my home. I know. I paid for half of it. I know. I laughed bitterly. Apparently, knowing doesn't change anything. Daniel stepped closer. Come with me. I don't have anywhere else. You have my place. I looked at him. I don't want to become your problem. You're my friend, Ethan. You're not a problem. I picked up my suitcase. Then let's go. At Daniel's apartment, I dropped my suitcase beside the couch. I'll take the spare room, I said. You can take my room. No, Ethan. I need somewhere quiet. Daniel nodded. Fine. That night, I couldn't sleep. I opened my phone and looked through old photographs. Sophia and me at our wedding. Sophia laughing beside me at the beach. Sophia holding my first company award. I stared at one picture for a long time. I whispered, "Where did I lose you?" My phone suddenly rang. Unknown number. Hello. This is the bank. My heart tightened. Yes. Mr. Carter, I'm calling regarding your accounts. What about them? They've been temporarily frozen. I sat up. What? Due to the ongoing legal dispute surrounding your company. How long? We don't know. Can I access my personal savings? I'm afraid not. I closed my eyes. So, I have nothing. You have limited access to emergency funds. How much? Approximately $40,000. I laughed softly. 40,000. The call ended. I stared at the ceiling. 7 years. 7 years of work. And I was now counting every dollar. The next morning, Daniel knocked on my door. You awake? Yes. There's someone I want you to meet. Who? A lawyer. I sat up. I can't afford a lawyer. She knows. That doesn't answer my question. Just G. Stared at Grace. Billions? She nodded. Potentially. I almost laughed. Yesterday, I had $40,000. And today, apparently, I might own something worth billions. Grace leaned back. Don't get excited yet. Why not? Because potential value isn't the same as real value. Daniel smiled. You're still allowed to be hopeful. I looked at Grace. What do I need? Proof that the technology works. I have it. Independent testing. I can arrange that. Patent protection. I'll handle it. Grace shook her head. No, you won't. I frowned. Why? Because you're too emotionally involved. I can think clearly. You've just lost your marriage, your company, and most of your money. I looked away. That's fair. Grace softened her voice. You don't need to fight every battle yourself. Daniel nodded. She has a point. I looked at him. Don't take her side. I've been taking your side for years. That made me smile. Grace opened another folder. There is something else. What? Victor's lawyers have already requested access to your research. My smile disappeared. Ow! Through the company. But my private research isn't theirs. Not unless your employment agreement says otherwise. I leaned forward. Show me. Grace handed me a document. I read the first page. Then the second. My stomach tightened. This clause. Yes. It says anything developed using company resources could belong to the company. Correct. But I developed the final version at home. Do you have proof? I have notebooks. Dates? Yes. Receipts? I think so. Laboratory records? Yes. Grace nodded. Then we may have a strong case. I looked at Daniel. Where are my files? Your old storage unit? I shook my head. No. Then where? My father's old workshop. Daniel stared at me. You still have access? Yes. Grace closed the folder. Then we go there today. I stood. What up? We drove away from the workshop without saying much. I kept looking at the evidence box on my lap. Grace, I finally said, how dangerous is this? She looked at me through the rearview mirror. Your situation? Yes. Very. Daniel frowned. That's not comforting. I wasn't trying to comfort him. I smiled faintly. At least you're honest. Grace nodded. Victor has money lawyers, connections, and information. And I have evidence. Daniel laughed. That's a pretty small army. Grace looked at him. Sometimes evidence is enough. I looked down at the box. What happens next? We secure your patent. How? First, we establish when you created it. I have records. Second, we prove you developed it independently. I can prove that too. Third, we protect the unfinished version. I looked at her. Why the unfinished version? Because sometimes the missing pieces are more valuable than the finished product. I understood immediately. Victor doesn't have the final formula. Not yet. Daniel looked at me. Where is it? I hesitated. In my head. Grace smiled. Good. My phone suddenly rang. Victor. I stared at the screen. Daniel said, don't answer. Grace nodded. Let it ring. I watched the call end. Seconds later, a message arrived. You are making this harder than necessary. I deleted it. Another message appeared. Sophia can still be protected. My chest tightened. Grace noticed my expression. What did he say? I showed her. She looked serious. He's using Sophia to pressure you. I know. Don't respond emotionally. I nodded. Then another message appeared. Come alone tonight, and I'll return what belongs to you. Daniel immediately said, absolutely not. I looked at Grace. It's a trap. Yes. Then why offer? To see whether you'll walk into it. I put my phone away. He won't get that satisfaction. We reached Daniel's apartment. Grace carried the evidence inside. Primipla. Daniel kept driving while the black car stayed behind us. It's still there, he said. I know. Grace looked at the side mirror. Don't speed up. Daniel frowned. Why? Because we don't know whether they want us to notice them. I looked at her. You think they're trying to scare us? Maybe. What if they're following Sophia too? Grace shook her head. Then we need to get to her before they do. Daniel turned onto a smaller street. The black car followed. My hands tightened. Daniel, take the next left. Why? Because I know this road. He turned. The black car followed again. Grace looked at me. Now we know. What? They aren't following us by accident. Daniel stepped harder on the gas. I looked at my phone. Sophia had sent no new message. I called her. No answer. Again. Nothing. My heart began racing. Something's wrong. Grace nodded. Don't panic. I can't reach her. We'll find her. Daniel suddenly stopped at a red light. The black car stopped behind us. I looked through the mirror. The windows were dark. Then the rear door opened slightly. A man stepped out. He wasn't running. He simply stood there, watching us. Daniel whispered, that's not good. Grace said drive. The light turned green. Daniel accelerated. The black car remained behind us. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Ethan. Victor's voice. I said nothing. You're going to the apartment. How do you know? You're predictable. I laughed coldly. No, you just think you know me. You have something I need, and you have something I want. Your wife. I felt my jaw tighten. No. The company? No. Then what? The truth. Victor was silent. I continued. You lied to Sophia. She was willing. You planned to destroy me. She made a business decision. You threatened her. She misunderstood me. I looked at Grace. She was listening carefully. Victor said, you still have time to. Stared at Thomas. Where is your daughter? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Victor took her yesterday. Daniel stepped forward. You should have gone to the police. Thomas laughed bitterly. I did, and they told me there wasn't enough evidence. Grace's expression hardened. Who did you speak to? A detective. Name? James Miller. Grace immediately pulled out her phone. I'll verify that. Thomas looked at me. Please. I held the notebook tighter. You expect me to trust you after everything? No. Then why should I help you? Because you know what Victor is capable of. I looked at Sophia. She was crying silently. Thomas continued. He told me if I brought him your research, my daughter would come home. And you believed him? I had no choice. You always have a choice. Thomas shook his head. Not when someone has your child. I understood his fear, but understanding didn't mean trusting him. I looked at Grace. What do we do? She answered immediately. We verify his story. Thomas frowned. Ow, give me 10 minutes. She walked away and made a call. I turned toward Thomas. What's your daughter's name? Emily. How old? 8. My chest tightened. I thought about the child I might never have with Sophia because our marriage had already collapsed. What school does she attend? Thomas told me. What does she look like? He described her. Then he showed me a photograph. A little girl smiling beside him. I looked at the picture. I'm going to help you. Thomas stared at me. Why? Because your daughter didn't betray me. His eyes filled with tears. Thank you. But understand something. What? If this is a trap, I will stop you. Thomas nodded. I understand. Grace returned. I verified part of his story. I looked at her. What did you find? There is a missing person report. Thomas closed his eyes. Emily. Grace continued. But there's